Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Kanwar Singh, known as Humble the Poet. And I am so grateful to be talking to him because he is a famous hate house author. And as he tells me that he's on tour, he's got back-to-back press for his book. And we're going to be talking on the subject of love, specifically what is love and how to love your way to a better life. Welcome, Humble the Poet.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. All right. Well, listen, guys, let me give you a short introduction to Humble the Poet. And he says, the truth is, we all want love. Very true. Everything we do is in pursuit of it. But as we count likes in social media and measure our worth by the numbers in our bank accounts, we are programmed to see love as something to earn or win. That programming obscures the simple truth behind what we are: beautiful, infinite, eternal sources of love. For Humble the Poet, the concept of love has been a decade-long curiosity. What began as reciting spoken word poetry in coffee shops to impress girls evolved into a creative adventure that has spanned the last 10 years, crossing genres, mediums, and oceans. In his new book, How to Be Loved or Loved, the former elementary school teacher turned rapper, spoken word artist, poet, and international best-selling author teaches his fans that instead of seeking to be loved by the world, we must be loved. Love it, love it, love it. Yep. Anything that you want, you gotta first be. I love it. All right. So I'm going to start off with a tantalizing question, Humble. And that is, what are most of us doing wrong when it comes to love?
I think we believe that we have to earn love, or that we have to find love, or that we have to qualify for love. And none of that's the case. I think we need to stop telling people you're worthy of love or you're enough for love. There's no worthiness or enoughness. These aren't things that should be even in the conversation. Love is constant. It's always there. And what we actually need to do is just clear away the clutter to realize love. But we don't have to do anything magical or specific to earn love and have love find us. It's the breeze. We just have to open up our sails to catch it.
All right, I love that. So we've got different kinds of love. So we've got God kind of love, which is always and everlasting. Then we've got the parental kind of love, which is always and everlasting. But the love where, a man meets girl or girl meets boy kind of thing, you're right. We feel that we have to earn it. But, I know that the chemistry of love is an energy, right? It's a spirit. So is that why you're saying that we don't need to earn it? It's just there?
Yeah, I wouldn't even differentiate the love. I think instead of saying there's God love, there's parental love, there's romantic love, I would say there's pathways of love. So the permanence is the pathway between us and the Almighty. The permanence is the pathway of love between us and our parents. Now, when we create new relationships, we're building a pathway. And that's why those pathways are a lot shakier. So if I meet someone for the first time, we're beginning to create a path for love, the energy of love to flow between us, right? It's not the love that is temporary, it's the path that's temporary. So if you're, and what it is we have, for example, the pathway of love between us and our parents or us and the Almighty. These pathways have been established. We have to do work to maintain them and clear the clutter from them, obviously, but we don't have to do as much work as, for example, if we have a romantic partner, if we have somebody we work with, we have an activity, we have to do a lot more work to just establish a clearer pathway. And there's a lot more day-to-day maintenance that's required for that. And I think very often we look at the previous pathways that we have and we're like, well, those were so easy. So making these new pathways with this person who I want to be my husband or wife should be just as easy. Just I care about them. That should be enough. And it's like, no, it's day to day, unsexy, unromantic work that's just required to keep anything maintained. The same way we got to maintain ourselves. There's, brushing your teeth isn't an adventure. Brushing your teeth isn't a trip to Paris. And it's the same thing with creating pathways of love between us and other people. It can't be these big, large gestures. It's got to be the small things. It's got to be the uneventful things. It's got to be the uncomfortable conversations. It's got to be all of that. So I don't differentiate the love. I differentiate the pathways and how we build them.
All right. So explain what is you're talking about a pathway, because I'm like here and I'm thinking like a highway.
Yeah, you can look at it
Right.
as a highway, or you
Tell-
can, or
okay.
yeah, look at it as a highway, look at it as a river, look at it any way you want.
Okay.
The highway moves quickly. Things can move quickly on the highway. So let's say, the highway is the path, and love would be the cars. And if you have a beautiful, well-paved highway with a lot of wide lanes and it's built super strong, then a lot of love can flow through it. Now, if you have one that's not been maintained and has a lot of potholes and it's crumbling, and then there's random pieces of garbage in the middle of the road, then everything's going to move slow or be obstructed, right?
Mm,
So the work that we have to do is not only to build the pathway, but to clear the pathway regularly. So,
okay.
and what would those obstructions be? What would the damage be? That's going to be our insecurities. That's going to be our need to be liked, our people pleasing. That's going to be our egocentric behavior. That's going to be us choosing self-esteem over self-respect. That's going to be us being unwilling to be vulnerable. Think about it. When you're not vulnerable, you're putting up a wall. So imagine
Mhm.
putting that wall on a highway. Nothing's going to be able to get through.
Mm,
We have to
you're a
clear the
crash for
wall.
sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to clear the wall. Right.
Mm,
And it's not an overnight thing. It's going to take time to do, but we have to measure progress versus, we've been given these ideas that you have to be perfect and worthy and qualify for love. And if somebody has love, if you have love for someone, they have to reciprocate it. And it's like, no, we are a source of love. The work that
mm,
we're doing is to create and keep these highways clean so we can flow that love with others. And, for some of us, creating and maintaining those highways is easier for some people in our lives than others, but
okay.
that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's easier for others, and it doesn't require the things that we think. It doesn't require history. It doesn't require being perfect. Everybody we love has imperfections. That's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't require us to build a deep connection. We fall in love with babies all the time. We don't need a deep connection with them. They don't even have to reciprocate. They just have to
Yes.
exist. And I think we have to let go of these old ideas that I have to be somebody or do something in order to realize this love that's already there. What we have to do is we have to let go of things. We have to clear
Mhm,
things away. We don't have to add things. Love is the
mhm.
peace. Love is peace. Love isn't pleasure, it's peace. And peace
Yes.
doesn't come from getting everything you want. Peace comes from not wanting anything.
I like that. I love it. Now let me spend a minute on the clutter because I think that was beautiful analogy. So we've got this highway, right? And we want to get somewhere. Let's say I want to get married,
Yeah.
right? So I want to be loved. So I've got this highway that I want to get to this new love partner. But you're right, I've got all these potholes and I've got all these walls and I've got all these garbage, right? And you mentioned what some of these things are: insecurity, self-esteem, you know, um, maybe baggage from somebody that's hurt us that, we bring into ourselves, distrust, and all these different things. So I'm on this highway that's got all this stuff, and I'm not going anywhere because of all this stuff. So, in your book, do you tell people how to clear that, or is your
Yeah,
work?
completely.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is say you have to be aware of it, right?
Hmm.
So I'm going to go as far as saying the need to get married counts as clutter. Because in the world we live in right now, people are more excited about getting married, having a wedding than getting married.
True.
The
True.
marriage is everything after. And
Yes.
weddings are probably the only big celebration we have to start something. You don't have to throw a big party when you start high school. You don't throw a big party when you start college. You throw a big party when you accomplish something at high school and
Right?
graduate,
With
or you
graduation.
accomplish something.
Got
Yeah.
you. Got you.
So what
Yes.
we should do culturally is we shouldn't be throwing lavish magical weddings. We should be throwing lavish magical 10-year anniversaries,
I
20-year
love that.
anniversaries,
I love
50-year
that.
anniversary. You accomplished something. You
Yeah.
stuck it out. It's hard to be with somebody. Throw a big lavish wedding, get the photographers, get the clothes, have the
Are
destination.
you
But
trying to change culture?
I'm trying to make culture aware that the reason we do these things is because people
Yes.
are getting rich off of it. It's not because this is what culture is. It's because they can sell it. When I started in this, especially with music, all the people that I worked with were in the wedding industry. My DJ was a wedding DJ. The guys shooting my music videos were wedding photographers. So I
Mhm.
learned a lot about the wedding industry, and it's selling a dream, and that's why we
Yes.
have such a high divorce rate. We have such a
Yes.
high divorce rate because people are in love with the wedding more than the marriage.
Yes.
And
Yes.
also, one of the number one causes for divorce is financial issues. And people are throwing these lavish, expensive weddings. So they're starting their journey together in debt.
Yes. Yes.
So, what I'm saying is understanding what the clutter is super important. And the clutter is not stopping you on a journey, the clutter is stopping love from flowing in between you and the other person. Right.
Mm.
So our needs to have these external things outside of us is always going to be the first issue. And then, and as I said, first thing is recognizing this clutter. The second thing is being okay that it exists. Okay. There's nothing wrong with any of us for having clutter. There's nothing wrong with any of us for having imperfections. There's nothing wrong with any of us for having insecurities. There's nothing wrong with any of us for wanting to be liked and accepted by others. All of these things are clutter, but
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with us for it. Let's not beat ourselves up over it. To love is to accept. So we need to accept ourselves as we are. And now we need to focus on progress over perfection. If
Okay.
somebody was perfect, they would not be able to be vulnerable. And if they can't be vulnerable,
Mm.
then you cannot connect with them. So let's
Mm.
abandon this idea that anything needs to be perfect, anyone needs to be perfect, and instead accept ourselves as we are and just say, let's make progress. Let's make baby steps every single day in the right direction and celebrate those baby steps. And from
Okay.
that standpoint, to me, true love isn't finding a partner and getting married. True love is being honest and saying, I'll be good either way. I'll be good if I have a partner and I can build a pathway of love with them. And then both of us as two independent people, pillars, not my better half, not you complete me, but instead I am a pillar, they are a pillar. And now that we are two pillars, we can hold up more together,
I
something
love
bigger
that.
than ourselves, whether that's a family or an empire or generational anything. And now we work together
I
for
love
a
that.
purpose bigger than ourselves. But also saying, I myself am a source of love and I don't require anything other than that. I'm not encouraging isolation. We are social creatures. We've been designed to be around people. But at the end of the day, what we're creating is pathways of love. And those pathways of love can be created between us and anybody. Because the thing is, the isolation is our egos saying that we're separate from others. And when we really tap deep into this, what we start to realize is, and for me personally, based off, where my family comes from in the world, we don't differentiate God from love. It's the same energy.
Yeah.
So it goes back to everything being love, everything being God. And now it's really about your belief that you're separate from everybody. Because when you genuinely love somebody, that's when you begin to melt into them. And there is no you and
Yeah.
them, and now it's a we. That type of relationship is possible with everyone and everything. And I think that's an important thing to understand, that the ultimate beauty is when you can actually honestly say, I would be okay as is. And I don't require something outside of me to make me feel better or complete or what have you, because it won't. As I said, we have a
It
56%
will for a
divorce
little
rate.
bit, and then it wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yes,
the same
it
way
would.
McDonald's will fill your belly for a little bit, and then there's a whole bunch of
And
other
right, right,
consequences.
yes.
Yeah, we
It
need to
will for
focus
a
on
little bit, right?
nutrition instead of what's delicious. And I think a lot of the reasons we chase these types of relationships because they're delicious, they're not nutritious. And what we need to do is we need to
You
establish a
are a
healthier
poet.
relationship with ourselves. Thank you. Yeah, establishing a healthier relationship with ourselves will also allow us to have healthier relationships with other people.
Right. Well, yeah, well, we can call them something else, self-love. It's true. And basically, how we ended your bio by saying that we must be loved, we must have self-love, we must be vulnerable. I'm speaking to female. I'm not understanding how the male works because I'm female, but female, we have to be able to be receivers because we are the in, right? So, we have to be able to make ourselves vulnerable and be able to receive. But before we move off of this, I have something else. So we're on this highway. You said that being aware of our imperfections and the potholes is the first step, right? So my other question is, even though you're saying that we don't need to get married to be complete or to have a better half, but we don't want to be in isolation, and the Bible says that two are better than one, and you're talking about this pillar where two people can hold up and build an empire. So it's good to have the other person. So how do we get this other person come into us? This love that we want to attract. How do we do it?
Again, as I said, I'm not here to say it's better to be married versus single or what have you. And as I said, listen, the numbers are 56% divorce rate. So you can rush to get married and get in the wrong relationship, and then you can end up being alone anyways.
Right.
If a plane had a 56% chance of crashing, people aren't going to get onto it. Right. So I think it's something to understand. What I'm saying here is establishing a relationship with yourself will set the tone for all the other relationships that you have. Okay. That means you have to be vulnerable with yourself. That means you have to accept your imperfections. That means you have to go easy on yourself. That means you have to date yourself. That means you have to journal and get to know your deeper, darker side. That means you have to pray. The important part of prayer is that's the only time we're not performatively expressing what we actually want and what we're actually grateful for. Praying out loud, knowing that nobody else is listening, I mean, in terms of the human form, allows us to be as honest as possible. And that establishes a level of vulnerability with ourselves. And so often we are floating through our lives, not aware of who we actually are. We don't pick up on our patterns. We don't understand why we behave in certain ways. We don't establish that self-awareness. Prayer helps with self-awareness. Journaling helps with self-awareness. Dancing by yourself in your room gets you more aware of how your body moves and feels and flows. That's a level of intimacy with yourself. That's important. There's something called self-havening, where you hug yourself. That is important. We can hug ourselves. This level of intimacy, this is what we do for other people. We create intimacy with them and vulnerability. We can do that with ourselves. And what that allows us to do is set the tone of what we enjoy, what we don't enjoy, what our boundaries are. And this is really important, especially if you have a female audience. What we have to realize is, the woman's greatest power in a relationship are her boundaries. Women cannot compete with other women. For a woman to compete with another woman for a man requires her to reduce her boundaries, thus reducing her power, thus reducing her value. So understand, you instantly lose the moment you think you compete with another woman. Men can compete with men, because here's the thing: if I'm competing with another man, all I'm trying to do is look better and make more money. And even if I lose, I still look better and make more money. If a woman has to reduce her boundaries to keep a man and she loses, now she just lost her boundaries, and there goes her value. And it's important to understand that. So it's understood, and those boundaries, and the reason we are hesitant to maintain boundaries because we think they make us unlikable. That's why we all say yes when we really mean no. That's why we all
I
not
wouldn't say
stand
that
up for
makes
us.
us unlikable, but you started off by saying our desire to please. And if you're
Yeah.
operating in fear, hey, this is good stuff right here. Because yes, when a woman competes with another woman for a man, she is willing to do more than she thinks the other one is doing. And that's where she loses her boundaries. So it's not necessary to be, I guess you're right, more likable than the other woman.
Yeah.
All right.
And here's the thing: chasing likes will reduce your love.
It's true.
So, and we live in a society that is encouraging us to be liked by everybody. They put us on social media. They have us counting our likes, counting our comments, counting our followers. We can measure it. Growing up, when you were in middle school, they're like, who's the most popular kid in the school? Everyone had an opinion, but now they can just look on their Instagram and count the numbers, and everyone's ranked.
Yeah.
So it's the products and the way our society is designed, and our society is simply designed for us to buy stuff. That's why it's there. But what that's doing is that's creating more debris and obstacles and potholes on our pathways of love that we're trying to establish with each other. So what we have to do is we have to realize that we have to focus on our self-respect over our self-esteem. And the more that we respect ourselves, the less we're going to chase other people's validations. And then as you are a more self-respecting individual, by default, you will attract more self-respecting individuals because everybody at the end of the day actually, they lean towards people who have qualities they want.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be more self-respecting, and they will be around you more if you display more self-respect. And I think that's the thing. But you can't do it disingenuously. Like, I have to pretend to be self-respectful so I can find a man. No, you actually have to, you actually have to authentically respect
I
yourself
actually don't
more.
think you can pretend. It comes through.
It will always come through.
It
And
will
as I
come
said, it
through.
doesn't have to be, I completely respect myself and I don't care what anybody thinks. No, there's a lot in between.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
I said, the focus here is progress. The focus is more self-respect every day and less need for outside validation. I still need outside validation. I need, I want this book to sell. That's how I pay my bills. But at the end of the day, when you get to a certain
You love
point,
yourself.
especially, you have to love yourself, and also you have to realize that making everybody else happy is impossible because there's too
Right.
many people. And if
Yes.
you're doing it at the expense of your own self, and we all know people who do it so much that they're suffocating under the masks that they're wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. The people pleasers. Right. Yes. They're very
Yeah.
unhappy. As you
And
were
again,
talking.
and a lot of us learned this as children because when we were children, our brains were developing. We didn't realize that the people whose love we wanted had lives outside of us. So we didn't
Mhm.
realize that, like, maybe you tried to win over a parent's love one day
Yeah.
and you weren't received well.
Yeah.
And then you internalize it thinking it's your fault. So then you work harder. What
Yes.
you may not realize is mom or dad might have just had a really bad day at work,
Right.
or mom and dad were also raised in a world where they may not know how to be emotionally available.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a million reasons why, but when you're 9, you can't, the context isn't there. Then you create these policies, which is our personality. And you're like,
Hmm.
okay, I have to, there's a beautiful thing about in the Will Smith autobiography where he explains, he goes, I was only funny to keep my dad in a good mood from hitting my mom. And he goes,
Yeah.
now, I
Yeah.
made a living out of being funny, but I only did it for survival,
Right.
you know? And what we have to do is
Amazing.
that building that awareness. Why am I the way I am? Why was I doing this since I was a kid? And is this still serving me?
Hmm.
And that's the thing. That's the question. Is this still serving me? We change chapters in lives. We should not just simply, there's some software and things in us that we can't get rid of, but
Hmm.
there's also policies and ideas that we have that we can definitely update and improve so we can have healthier relationships as adults. And also when we go through this journey, we'll start to realize gaps. Like, ooh, here was a gap in my upbringing. That doesn't mean we have to resent those who raised us. They were flawed human beings, and that's okay. That just means we can identify the gap and as adults, fill that gap ourselves. If it was something simple as my parents never told me they're proud of me. Okay, cool. That's fine. Tell yourself you're proud of yourself.
That's
Stand
a
in
good
front of
one,
the
you know.
mirror and tell
Yeah.
yourself you're beautiful. You
Yeah.
can do it now. You can hug
Yeah.
yourself now. You can take yourself out for ice cream now. You can do all those things now instead of
I love it,
living
but
in
you know what?
resentment for them because that's a
But
dark
we
place and
still
love
need
doesn't
someone to
exist there.
say they're proud of you, even if you do pat yourself on the back. My husband would
So
always tell me that when he was playing football, his coach told him not to wait for someone to pat him on the back, pat himself on the back. Yeah, but still, you still crave that. But I hear what
and
you're
but here's
saying.
the thing: it's okay that we crave that. I also crave potato chips and French fries, right?
Yeah, it's not good for you,
And
right?
I
Right.
have to be mindful that in moderation, it's great. But if I devote
Right.
my life to it, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
left hollow. It's the
that's
same
true.
thing. I crave validation. I'm doing big interviews and people are reaching out and everyone's telling me how proud they are and it feels good. But here's the
Yes.
thing: 6 months
Mhm.
from now, when this book campaign is over, that attention is going to be gone. It's
Right.
going to be on somebody else. Am I going to feel? Then am I going to still be thirsty for it? If I see that as valuable,
Yes.
and I think that's the important part. And again, I live in LA, in the city where everybody's in survival mode for their relevance. They're not in survival mode to pay their bills. The entertainment industry is a bunch of rich people trying to stay relevant, stay in the
Mhm.
news, stay in the headlines.
Yes,
That's their
yes,
survival. And I
you're
think,
very right. That
yeah,
fame thing, I listened to Kevin Hart the other day, and he was talking about that fame, just like you said,
being the worst drug. Yeah, on Jay Shetty.
right.
Yes, yes. And that's the thing. That's the important
Yes.
thing to understand, that
Hmm.
we start something where it's like, okay, I need to make sure my bills are paid, I need to make sure whatever. And then once that's done, there's a whole different level of survival. And that survival is, and the truth is, it's if we let that part go and let that part die,
Hmm.
and again, for me, I haven't been on social media for 2 years and in the public eye for 2 years while writing this book. Now I'm here on social media, active, doing all the fun stuff, doing all the interviews. 3 months from now, I'm going to go back into a hole and go back into a normal life where I'm not finding my value through how many people are paying attention to me, And as I said,
Because you're healthy emotionally. But
well,
yeah,
I'm
like you
working
talk
on
about
it.
that being a drug, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I recognize fame being a drug.
Yes.
I see the value of it in terms of helping me pay my bills, and it'll help me
Hmm.
pay my bills. But I don't need to get invited to all the parties. I don't need to go to all the premieres. I don't need to, have all this extra attention. Because even with all that attention, there's another side to that, and a lot of people may or may not understand that as well. So for me, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, let me use this for what I require it for, which
Right.
is I've made something. I worked very hard to create the simplest book about love, and I want to service people. Now
Hmm.
I just have to make sure people know I exist so they can get the book and they can find value in it.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, you can be the biggest Humble the Poet fan in the world and not know that I have a book out. I have to
Right.
communicate in some way.
Right.
And that doesn't require me to do funny dances on the internet. That doesn't require me to jump into controversy. That doesn't require me to do any of that. That just requires me to participate,
Yes.
be grateful for individuals like you that share their audience and their platform with me, and allows me to not only connect with my audience, but connect with a new audience that may resonate with what I have to say.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is good stuff so far. I love it. Now, I have a question here. So, what advice do you have for people looking up to find a partner? We covered a little bit of it. You said that we don't need a partner to complete us, and we should be okay to be by ourselves. But let's say that I want a partner. I want the highway to take me somewhere. What advice do you have?
So I'm not saying you don't need a partner. What I'm saying is don't sacrifice your self-respect for a partner.
Ah,
Okay. So if you want to go like just straight up dating advice, one of the best pieces of advice that I got was write out your entire love life. Write it all out from your first crush in kindergarten all the way up to today. Write the entire love life out. Talk about the person, talk about your best memories, talk about your worst memories. Okay?
oh,
Write it all out.
I like that.
Write it all out. And
Uh-huh.
then go back with a highlighter and revisit the story. And then anything that makes you feel good, highlight it. Okay. And now these are the qualities in a person. Now you have your list of an actual quality. Because right now, everybody's lists are all the same and they're not unique to them. So for me, I had an ex-girlfriend when I was first starting this. I had, I was dating somebody, and this is, 10 years ago. And she said, listen, the world needs to hear your voice. Stop doing everything else. The world needs to hear your voice. The world needs to hear your ideas. So whenever I felt insecure, hearing her say that uplifted me. Later on, if I was dating somebody else and they're like, look, work isn't everything, your mission isn't everything, money isn't everything, or whatever, it was like, okay, now you're not understanding what my purpose on this planet is. We're not compatible. So I
Mm-hmm.
wrote that down. Somebody that understands the purpose and
Mm-hmm.
journey of Humble the Poet. And again, I'm not trying to make millions of dollars and drive Lamborghinis. I'm trying to get this message out to help people better understand themselves. Okay.
Yes.
And that
Your
sometimes
purpose.
requires, yeah,
That's your
and it
purpose.
requires
Yes.
12-hour work days. It requires me missing Sunday brunches. It requires me not showing up for every little family function, and my family understands that. But when you're with somebody else, their family may not. So having someone that understands that. I also believe a lot in the width and depth of life. So I'm not looking to play things safe. I'm looking to have experience as much life as possible. I view myself as a baseball glove, and I want to get beat up as much as I can by life before my time is up. Somebody who understands that. So that
Yes.
means, hey, maybe we don't live in a big lavish house and we use that money to travel. You know,
Mm,
we have unique experiences. We explore different things. We constantly create new bucket lists, and we constantly explore that. For me, that's important.
I'm
You
loving
know,
this.
yeah. But I only discovered this by reliving my love life and finding out the parts that excited me. You know, so now I have a list, and now literally, if I meet a new female, I can just share the list. You know, and again, it's not, and it's a unique list. It's not, she's got to be this tall. She's got to do what, you know, because again, everybody has, and
Well,
it requires self-awareness to build that list.
yeah, you're just knocking out my little coaching here, because when women come to me and they say they want a partner, I do exactly what you said not to do. I tell them, look for, write out what it is that they want. But then you're right. I mean, a list of, one of my last clients, she talks about, she wants someone to sit around in the house and maybe watch a movie, or they're looking out at the beach, that kind of thing,
But
just
so
looking
what
at,
you start to realize with that
right.
is they're not, that's not the quality they want. They want the feeling associated with the
Yeah,
quality.
right.
So what they
Yes,
really should be saying is, you know, like I want someone I can watch a movie with. What they're really saying is I want somebody who makes spending time with me feel like a
yes.
priority.
Priority. Okay. All right.
So
All right.
now it's less about the actual activity of watching a movie, and it's
Mhm.
more about letting that person know that, listen, this
Yes.
is me time, this is us time, no phone,
Yes.
no nothing. Now
Right.
it doesn't have to be a movie. It doesn't have to be a lavish beach. It could be playing a board game on the bus together
Yes.
while you guys
Yes.
are headed to somewhere.
It
It could,
translates to quality time. Got you.
yeah, because what you're
Yes.
chasing is the feeling. You're not chasing
Feeling.
the actual stuff. You know, when women
Yes.
often talk about a man's height, what they're not chasing a specific height. They're chasing a feeling of safety
Mm.
that comes with, you know. And again, it's an incorrect correlation. A guy of a certain height does not lead to any type of more safety in our modern world, you
Right.
know. But again, it just requires us to go a little bit more, become a little bit more self-aware.
Personally, I think that's profiling, because just like how you're talking about someone wants to drive a Lamborghini, a tall man, might look better.
But and
And
again,
that's
but
women
look
want
better.
that, right?
But here's the thing: we all have been in relationships long enough where the physical qualities of a person fade in their in who they are. People get more attractive or less attractive the longer you know them.
Yes.
No matter
And
how symmetrical their face is, no matter how tall they are, no matter what body
yes,
shape they have, it doesn't matter in the long run.
yes.
But people have to be honest, and what they need to say is, it looks better in pictures. It looks better to others. I was just having this conversation with a room in a room full of men and women. We were talking about different superficial things, and one
Mhm.
of the things that we were talking about was women doing their nails, and how, you know, my theory is women do their nails to impress other women. You know, because men, you know, if when you
Don't
ask
really
your
look
average
for that.
man, or when you ask your average man what he's looking at when he looks at a woman, you know, the nails aren't extremely high on that list. You know, but you know,
But
but I get it's
something.
given an
I mean, I've heard men say that they like a woman that takes care of herself. And I think
that's a
that when they do their
holistic
nails and
statement.
their feet, maybe they think they take care of herself. You're just knocking out all my little things here.
Well, this is what my work is. My work is challenging popular
Yeah,
ideas and
right,
asking why
right.
are they popular. And as I
Mhm.
said, it's about the feelings. At the end of the day, as I said, same thing with luxury purses. A man doesn't know. A man doesn't care. You know. But at
Wow.
the end of the day, what you see is so you know the joke that we were making was girls do their nails and get nice purses to impress other girls. Guys get attractive girls to impress other guys. So at the end of the day, the person and nails all fit in that package to impress another guy. But again, this goes back to us being people pleasers. We're
Yes,
not getting a
yes,
partner that makes
yes,
us feel good. We're
yes,
getting a partner that feeds our self-esteem by impressing
yes.
other people.
And then they're unhappy. Behind closed doors, they've got the trophy
Yeah.
wife and the nice tall man, and they're unhappy. I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yes.
Listen, I live in Los Angeles and I've dated like professional models, you know, professional pretty people. And at the end of the day, you know, and it happens. I literally went to a store opening and I brought somebody who her job, she's a professional model full time, and I brought her as my date. And then, you know, the guys pulled me aside and like, good job, good job. But and that gets into your head. And you're like, oh, you know, now should I be mindful of who I bring to events versus, and irrespective of me and her even have chemistry or me and her are even on the same page in life, you start to realize how many, it's the compliments can be just as damaging as the criticisms. Because like,
Mm.
oh, now I need to always show up with
Put a model on your arm.
yeah, with a model on my arm, irrespective of
Wow.
me, the human being behind this person's shell, even get along. And then what if I fall in love with somebody who I actually get along with, but they're not 5'9"?
Model
They don't,
like,
yeah, they
right,
don't have these. They didn't win the genetic lottery when it comes to
yeah,
disproportions, and they're not built like a Barbie doll or whatever it may be.
right.
So you start to realize that it comes from the outside world, and I think women have
Yes,
it too, with other
yes,
women judging other women's men, and social media feeds this. We have hashtag couples goals. We have all this stuff.
yeah,
Everybody goes places just to take the picture and post it now. And I think this is the important stuff for us to recognize, which is,
wow,
hey, this is exhausting and none of it's making me actually feel at peace, which is
no,
the goal and the purpose of love.
wow,
Love is what's left when everything else is gone.
right.
That's what love is. To clear away
Well, they
something. Love
probably
is,
can't even get into that energy because the energy is all superficial. Nobody's
and
going
again,
deep.
I don't
Right.
hold it against anybody because superficial energy is delicious and it's addictive. It's potato chips. It's salty, salty potato
Yes.
chips. And nobody
McDonald's.
is weak for loving that. All you got to, the only way to not eat a potato chip is not have it in the house. You can't have them in your kitchen cupboard and rely on your willpower. It'll win. You know, it's the same
Wow.
thing with this superficial stuff. You get the validation. You hang out with the people that do that. You hang out with people that compliment you for having a pretty girl on your arm, or you hang out with people that compliment your nails or your purse, and now you feel like you have to keep it up. And that is where you have to be mindful. And I grew up in a spiritual practice which said, the spiritual person is unimpacted by insults or compliments. So I've always been mindful of that. It's not chase the
Yeah.
compliments, ignore the insults. It's both of these have no value in your life,
Wow.
especially when you're getting them from people who don't know you.
Yeah.
People
Boy,
are sitting in the
boy.
nosebleed section
This
of
is
your
a
life.
lesson. Now, this is what you call a life lesson here. I am loving it. I am loving it. All right. Well, I know you've got places to go and people to see. So let's talk about your book for
Yes.
a minute.
How
So
to
your
be
book is
loved.
called. All right. Yes. Yes. Oh,
How to be
that's
loved.
pretty. I love the cover. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Yes.
Yes. So for the people that is listening on the podcast, it's called How to Be Loved. Simple truths for going easier on yourself, embracing imperfection, and loving your way to a better life. Now, normally this is the part where I ask, why did you write it? And what do you want people to walk away with? But I think you told me already why you wrote it. You wanted to challenge the the norms and challenge the way that people live their lives superficially. But what do you want to add to that?
I want people to understand that even after you read this book, even after you hear this interview, I'm not a love guru. I'm not a love expert. What I am is I am somebody who had a failed relationship and I was desperate to figure out why. I was desperate
Mm,
to figure out because it wasn't, I was with a beautiful person who was beautiful on the inside and out, but there was a
mm,
lot of anxiety and a lot of toxic energy within me that wouldn't allow me to go deeper and connect with them, for us to spend our
mm,
lives together. And I was desperate to figure out why I was failing at love. So
mm,
I took a super deep dive to
mm.
explore love and figure out what I was doing wrong. Um, and this book is what I learned. So what this is, I'm not a love guru. What I am is I'm a student at the front of the class taking the most precise, simple notes, and I'm sharing them with everybody else. And I'm still figuring myself out. I'm still learning to establish a deeper pathway with myself for love. I'm still creating more pathways with other people for love. I still have insecurities. I still have superficial tendencies. I still live in LA. I still, I'll still overlook an individual's red flags if they're beautiful. I still make all the mistakes, and that's okay. That's why the book is saying simple truths for going
Honesty.
easier on yourself.
Yes.
I'm going easier on myself and I'm getting better at it. And what I am is just, I used to be an elementary school teacher. So I learned how to take ideas and make them easy to digest. I make
Mm,
music, I make poetry. So I put words together very well. That's my
mm,
talent. That's my 10,000 hours. And then what
mm,
I do now is I selfishly chase wisdom And as I learn the wisdom, I package it for other people to make it easier for them to understand. And what we realize is a lot of the real wisdom challenges the beliefs we have today, because the
Mhm.
beliefs we have today are not for our benefit, it's for the benefit of those people who want to sell us stuff and make a lot of money.
Yes.
If we all loved ourselves, there wouldn't be a makeup industry. If we all loved ourselves, there wouldn't be a fitness industry. If we all loved ourselves, people wouldn't need more than two outfits, you know? So they need us. The economy needs us not to love ourselves. So we buy a bunch of crap for them.
Wow. Hmm. Hmm. I actually, you just said something very important because the people that can't stop shopping, and I know a few.
Yeah, retail therapy.
Yeah.
Please get a real
Yes.
therapist. Please get a clinical psychologist. They will help. Therapy
Yes.
is important. And again, going back to my own mistakes, one of my on my list is I won't date somebody who's not in therapy. And I have broken that rule many times when her face was super symmetrical. And I learned the hard way. I've learned the hard way. As I said, I'm still making all these mistakes. And the last chapter in the book, I talk about it. I'm like, this book is just about French fries versus broccoli. What's better for you? What's healthier for you? What's more delicious? And I'm like, and while I'm writing this book, I got a plate full of French fries and broccoli, and I'm eating them both. I'm a regular guy like everybody else. I'm
I'm
making these
loving it.
mistakes, but I wrote this book, and I feel like we will all benefit from it. And as I said, to live and to love is to serve, and that's why I'm here.
Oh, I am absolutely loving this. Loving this. And you're being vulnerable. So you're knocking down that wall. So that's beautiful. You're
Yeah,
using
it's important
yourself.
because you see a lot of people
Yes.
in the wellness industry, what they say is, hey, here's my story. I used to be all messed up, and then I figured out all the answers, and now I'm not messed up. And for three easy
Shoot.
payments of 1995, you cannot be messed up either. And it's like, no, that's not how life works. We live in seasons. Life is a circle. It's not a straight line.
Yeah.
And we all have our winters, summers, springs, and falls. And this is my journey. I'm sharing my mistakes. I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm sharing what I'm learning. And I'm telling you, I plan on making more mistakes. If I wasn't going to make more mistakes, I'd run out of things to write about. And what we need to do and so for me, I look at it as each one teach one. And the same way people used to draw in caves to warn future generations about predators and write our history, I'm just contributing to that. I'm a part of that world. I'm an artist. I'm a creative. As we've all learned during the pandemic, we all needed art. We all needed podcasts. We all needed Netflix. We all needed movies. We needed all of that to keep us afloat during those hardest times. We all need that stuff to keep us afloat in traffic. A lot of people are listening to this while they're stuck in traffic. We all
Yes.
need each other. I'm a part of this system where I give people stuff that they can do, which makes life feel a little bit lighter. And in return, they buy my stuff, help me pay my bills, and the cycle continues.
Wow. This is good. This is good. I mean, I'm even gonna go and write down my love story too.
Please do. You're gonna learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about yourself when you write your autobiography. Write it out.
Yes, I will too. Humble the poet, you did not disappoint. This was a fantastic conversation. Listen, guys, we had so many nuggets here. I mean, I know you've missed some of them, so there is going to be a transcript of my conversation with Humble the Poet on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. Before we do that, though, Humble, how can people, obviously they know they can buy your book from Amazon. How can they connect with you? What's your website? What's your social media handles?
Website is humblethepoet.com. You
Okay,
can find every link to the book at humblethepoet.com/love. And my handles on all social media is at humble the poet. And I'm most active on Instagram.
perfect. Yes, that's a good handle. I said that's what they call you. Wow, listen, hey, I do this because not only I love speaking to people, not only I love sharing, wisdom with my audience, but this is life school for me. And I've learned quite a few things from talking to you today. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for including me in your press packages. And, I am for sharing wisdom, you know, because this is wisdom. This is life school, and I love it. So thank you, Humble. All right, guys, listen, thank you for tuning in to the Transforming Mind to Transform Your Life. I hope that your mind was transformed today on love, you know, the energy, the superficialness, broccoli and chips, and you know, what do you really want? Versus what you think is going to look good in pictures. Loving it, loving it, loving it. So thanks again. So Humble, any last words?
Live your most authentic life, and remember, love is a verb.
Love is a verb.
Love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is the service.
Yes, I learned that in Sunday school.
Amazing.
Yep, it is.
Oh, actually, one
It's a
last point,
verb.
and as you're talking about Sunday school, something I learned really recently too, is also, you know, the reason we judge harshly, and you know, that in itself is our ultimate sin. That's what biting from the tree of good and evil was. You know, we didn't view things as good and
Knowledge.
evil before we bit from that tree. And
Mhm.
that's where a lot of that's what gets in the way of our peace now. Judging everything. This is good news. This is bad news. This is a good idea. This is a bad idea. This is going to help me. This is going to hurt me. We don't have crystal balls. We don't know how it is. Let's surrender to life a little bit more. Find opportunities in every situation, and you know, empower ourselves to realize that we're always in control of our efforts and our attitudes. Be more curious, less judgmental. And I think when I learned that idea, like, well, that's how, you know, biting from the tree of good and evil, what that actually meant. It's not, you know, before that, you know, there was peace because we weren't focused on good and evil. And love is what exists beyond the duality of good and evil.
Yes. All right. We finished with a bang.
Mm.
All right, guys. Thank you, Humble. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know Humble's got another interview going, so we're gonna head out. So once again, thanks again, and namaste.
Thank you.